So I'm taking care of things up in the loft this evening, and I figured out I've got about 350 bales with about another 30 bales that are real heavy. The clover in them made them really heavy and made them kind of sloppy. They're also kind of coarse, so a lot of alfalfa in them. We're saving those for our own cows. Everything else is for sale square bales. This is second, third cutting from last year. The sloppy bales, I think, were second cutting. They could have been first, but I remember they were so heavy when we brought them up here, and it was because of that clover, and a lot of animals don't tolerate that. Our own guys down there, they get a little loose from it, but they've already been a little loose from eating first cutting. I've got this little bit of straw here, and I'm going to kind of reorganize that a little bit. The plan is to reorganize that a little bit. I don't know for sure if I will. We've got a half a trailer load of straw out back. We're going to bring that up here so we can get that trailer empty. That way we can have square bales in it. We have a little bit of repairs we want to do to the barn. Every year we do some repairs in here. So here's a different aspect to show you from up high on the loft. This was 3 stalls, and we took the center stall out so that the bull could be exposed to the heifer. They were both over a year old now, and he's seeming to have done his job, and he's annoying the heck out of her. Mama cow over here, she's about to calve. Not real sure exactly when, but she's in a pen of her own. I'd like to put the girls over here and put the bull here, or put him out to pasture with the other steers, and there's a couple bulls out there. So he's a little younger. I don't know how well he'll handle that with getting bullied. So husband wants to keep him in here in the barn. I have cleaned out their stall for the day. I've got to go down there and spread some barn lime. It really helps them a lot to keep from slipping. So there's products called like Stall Dry that are like $13, $15 a bag. This is actually crushed limestone, and it is anywhere from $3.99 to maybe $5 a bag. Family Farm and Home has it cheaper than Tractor Supply if you are interested in that at all, but just look for this blue label. For some reason they have it by the horse supplies all the time. I suppose because horses are in barns a lot. We don't use a skid steer. This drops down. We don't even own one. It is all done by hand. Because this was originally pig pens, they didn't put grooves into the concrete at all. That's where sand would help with that. And we use straw. So I'm getting ready to, I'll have to hit this with the pitchfork again because it's been drying. Give them a new coating of the lime. There you go. Hi. How are ya? Bethany has been calling her Bluebell. She used to call her Buttercup. This is Shadow. Yeah, hi. Hi. And I've just been calling her Sassy because she has got an attitude. She thinks she's bigger than me. Of course she is. Look at how big she is. So you can see she's laying in some wet. I got to clean her out again. Give everybody food and water. And get on with the evening because husband is out there cutting hay. So let's go see what he's doing. Hello. How are ya? Are you getting a baby in your belly? Yeah. So hopefully she'll have gotten bred and he'll have done his job. They're about 8 weeks apart in birth. March and June, I believe, last year. So this is about 3/4 of a bale of straw, busted up, spread out. I found it works really good to stand on the outside and just kind of loosely break up the bale a leaf at a time. He gets super excited and randy about the straw for some reason, and then he starts running back and forth and chasing her. He was not being a good bull. He's been here being pet, brushed, everything since he was born and separated from his mom. He's been kind of my baby, but he knows that I'm not his mom anymore. He wants to be difficult. So we're going to go through and do the same thing with her. All right, so now Mama Cow is all done. Her pen only took me maybe 10 minutes total, shoveling it out, barn lime and new straw. I already cleaned her out once today, and I just took the straw that was around the edge and scattered it about to collect any urine or feces through the day while the rest of it dried. So she's all set. And they've got a full bale. This is a 100-gallon stock tank, and then they've got a 50-gallon stock tank for water. A bale fits in these perfectly, and then I can just set it in, cut the strings, and walk away. I was talking about sand. Dairy farms that use sand in pens like this, but they have, you know, hundreds and hundreds of cows. We have 2 cows and a bull in the barn. So we're using the straw that we have. This is wheat straw from the neighbors a couple of years ago. We've used rye straw, our own wheat straw. So it works out really great to do it this way. This is a full day of cutting hay. He broke a tooth, so he's going to get this middle section tomorrow and recut the south field again because it's already getting heads on top of the grass. Don't want to get a stemmy. So today I had to head over to the farm store, called Farm and Home, and trees, bushes, and shrubs, live plants, 40% off. So these were $10, and I ended up getting for like $5.20. And trees were $36.99 on sale for $22. So since it stopped him tonight to get a head start on tomorrow, he's doing his repair. So you just chisel the rivet off the top.
Yeah.
Right here.
And this time I did. It broke one of them. It broke this one off for some reason. So it got loose, so I just quit before it caused more trouble.
Yeah. So you want to keep up on these. You can see like he must have hit a little rock or something with that one. But the edges are sharp, and you have to be careful. I recommend leather gloves. His hands already are steel, so he doesn't have to worry about that. We've showed these before. He's got this tool that he uses for pressing the rivets on. So he's grabbing his new part there, and I'll show you how he's doing it. So there's his rivets. So you can see how much pressure he was putting on that. He's going to go ahead and round those over, so then it's got more of a bite hanging onto the tooth on top. There you go, all fixed up. So now we'll just slide this back in. Sometimes it takes two of us.
No, I'm gonna
because it likes to sit. Oh, are you gonna?
Every time I break something and take it apart, I add a little brazing rod to the ball.
Oh.
And show how that wears.
Yeah.
And
did you repair this one, or did we have to find another one?
No, I just keep adding brass to it. This part is very expensive, and you might not be able to buy it separate anymore. They might want you to buy the whole cutter bar, which has went from $150 to $250 from John Deere. So this is what finally gets so thin and small that it takes these out. So in order to protect these, you want to keep that ball as big a diameter. So when you put brazing rod on there, it's actually molten and rough.
Yeah.
And within a little while, the harder shape of this, I think those are cast, that just reshapes it to a perfect circle. And then, I mean, it's cut 100 acres since I did that last time, and you can see it's showing where it's still the right shape. So this is just a good opportunity to build that up.
Okay.
But I don't want to do it this late at night, of course, because we're real dry here.
Yep.
So I'll slide it in tomorrow.
Okay. So even with very little rain, are we like an inch yet for May and June?
Tenth of an inch in 2 months.
Okay. So the alfalfa has such good roots that it still reaches down. The grass isn't as high, but you can see strips through here. So he's going to go ahead and cut this tomorrow too.
It'll neaten it up.
This is why. If you don't, you start getting weeds. There's a couple burdocks growing here and there. But like I said, the heads are already maturing on the grass. And you give this 2 weeks or more, and then you start getting blossoms on the alfalfa. So tidy it up. He thinks it's been about a month since we cut this last. So still growth, but you can see like some areas. Not real tall in some areas. And of course the deer are out here, you know, all the time too, finding a spot that they like the best. Like that mama deer who likes to be out here every night, who like to eat my cherry trees. So we're kind of getting settled in for the night, but I just wanted to show you, this is my baiting station. A lot of kitchen scraps, a couple of live traps. This one quit working. The metal on the front, I reinforced this so they would stop like prying it, but you get a big raccoon in there and they just pull on these, and this one doesn't always trigger, so it's a problem. So if I just set it for as little as possible, then sometimes I can get a raccoon there. But we found you have to put a stake through it, or the raccoons from the outside will just tip the whole pen over and escape with the food and the treats. So we've just been keeping a hammer here to drive this in every night, and almost every night we catch a raccoon or a possum. And these girls are the reason for the live traps being set, is that we're trying to save their lives now and in advance, because those raccoons, I guess they can have a couple litters a year. And the average is like 4, but they can have, you know, maybe 5, 6, 7. And then come in and decimate a flock in minutes. We have not lost one chick And when you have the cost of the chicks, the cost of the feed, materials to build their coop, you don't want to lose that to those predators. Oh, we want to go on. So last week we got this all redesigned and put a fencing roof on the top, and that's keeping them predator safe quite a bit. It's working out really well. We've been a week with them outside and they are liking it. Every night, all of them are out here. So besides the chickens and catching predators, one of the other things we do is garden. And this morning, my job is to plant potatoes. This was about 5, maybe 8 pounds of potatoes. I actually bought about a 10-pound bag of potatoes at a local-ish farm place. And these were Yukon Golds. I've already planted the russets. And they take bruised, damaged, small potatoes, 2 large potatoes, and they put them in a giant bag and discount them. Now we figured out it was about a 18 to 20 pound bag, and we were eating out of the bag and everything. We saved a few. The trick to getting them to sprout is to wash them in case they have been sprayed to prevent sprouting. That encourages that growth to start. So I actually cut these like 3 weeks ago, and I've just been really busy and I haven't got to planting them. So what you do is you take a whole potato and you cut it where you see sprouts or eyes. Now a lot of people like to have at least 2 or 3 sprouts. This is a really big seed potato, basically. The only difference between seed potatoes and this is seed potatoes are not sprayed. A lot of times they're small or they're discarded as being marketable, and a lot of times they're organic, so there's no treatment on them. You can go to the grocery store and buy fresh organic potatoes and do this same thing. So just to show you, I've taken a potato like this and I've cut it so that it's got a couple sprouts. I'll plant this cut side down. Now a lot of times you get a lot more than one cut side, so just choose a cut side, and basically this potato becomes the food storage, just like a yolk and an egg, to feed these sprouts, and new roots will grow. So we're going to go ahead and prep the ground and get these planted. So when I plant my potatoes, I like to plant them about 9 to 12 inches apart. The reason for this is that as it grows up and it gets bushy, you can get between them to weed. I like to weed with a long-handled cultivator. We have a high-wheel antique cultivator that works really well. Occasionally, I'll come across one like this. It's gotten a little bit hard and I don't know if it's going to grow. I'll just go ahead and throw a second one down there just to see if it'll grow, and it's like added insurance if it doesn't grow. So occasionally, and it's like with the eyes, you'll see 2 plants popping up from multiple spots on that potato. I've channeled out the dirt, you see, and I take the dirt from one side and I cover it up. As I weed, I'll cover it with more dirt from the side. The idea is you're adding hills as those potatoes grow, and that protects that potato from sun scald. So this is my russet potato section, and I did the same thing, same potatoes, just a jumbo bag, sliced them up, let them cure for about 3 or 4 days, and started planting them. Some of these cured for a week or 2, or like the others 3. And I just, as I got time, added another row. So this was freshly watered last night. They do need a good amount of water and sunlight to grow, so keep that in mind. And the weeding is really easy the way I'm doing it, because I just grab a cultivator or a garden rake and just gradually get all the weeds out. It's real simple. And this will yield a lot of potatoes for our family of 7.
Now flip it over and do the other side.
So that's just regular welding rod or brazing rod?
No, it's brazing rod. It says bronze on the box.
Okay.
It's softer, so it just forms and molds itself as it goes back and forth against those pieces over there. So let me flip it over now.
up good enough.
Step on it. Not that hard. I'll do it. Must be something else.
Okay, she's put back together and ready to go cut some more hay. One thing, if you've ever followed along our videos, I feel like I'm always in a hurry and rushing around. I talk fast, I talk loud, it's go, go, go. Because so far today I've fed some animals, sold some chicks, did laundry, ate breakfast, said hello to the kids, went to the garden, videoing him doing this. He is much slower and not in a hurry to do anything, and he will not be pushed or hurried. He doesn't even like to go in the car because like a tractor is like 25 miles an hour. You get in the car, and if I am on the highway, I have to keep it about 60 because he doesn't like that 70 mile an hour, 80 mile an hour people passing us. So we tend to take the back roads anyway. So it's got the hydraulics all hooked up. Raise it up and test it. Everything's been greased every time. All right, time to clean up and get back to work. Back to the garden for me. The thing about growing a garden is you got to make a little time for it, and sometimes it's time in the beginning of the day, sometimes in the end of the day. I'm not a real big fan of middle of the day gardening because that's what makes it so miserable for people. My sons, they're late risers and they'll go out there in the middle of the day and get all hot and sweaty. I've been working on this project and neglecting my garden, but Murdoch is an excellent gardener, so he's been taking care of that stuff for me. A lot of people would say they can't garden because their knees are bad or their back is bad. And I will tell you one thing, in my experience, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So if you start sitting around and say, I can't do that, I can't do that, eventually it will be impossible for you to do that and gain that ability back. I'm gonna work, I'm going to labor, I'm going to do everything as long in my life as I can. My grandpa was a very old man. Both of my grandpas gardened, and they had magnificent gardens. My dad is in his 70s, he gardens, he plants, he has wonderful flowers, and it's just, I like being outside also. The kids, they're loud yahoos. What am I gonna do, sit in the house and watch TV or do something productive? So I'd rather be out here in the garden doing some productivity. A thing that I think is important is to be relaxed about your garden. There's no perfect way, there's no wrong or right. To share a word that my 13-year-old boy likes to say, my rows are catawonky. They're this way and that. I don't use string, I don't have a rototiller. My first gardens, my husband tore up the yard with the disc and ran through it with probably the spring tooth cultivator or a drag. And now I've learned, as long as I'm attempting it, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be successful. My first time I ever planted potatoes, I bought 2 seed bags, maybe 3 at Tractor Supply. I cut them up, I put them in the ground. The kids were little. It was just so much fun to come out here and pick those potatoes later on. And You don't have to have all the garden equipment. You don't have to have every tool. We've planted seeds inside. I've bought starter plants in the past. I don't really like to do starter plants unless I'm buying them from somebody else, because the price that you pay for the starter plants are so high versus the packet of seeds. I just asked Murdoch, how many tomato plants do we have? And we had a lot of harvest touching the ground last fall, and some of them were planted a little late, so they were maturing late. In short, a lot of seeds are spread on the ground, so we've been separating these tomato forests into individual plants, and those individual plants, we're at 78, not counting the forests of tomato plants that we still have to separate. So our garden this year is largely potatoes, tomatoes, and onions. We've got a row of carrots. I'm thinking about adding more carrots. I want to have on hand everything for stew. For years and years, my kids have been eating Denny Moore stew. It was something I picked up from my dad. I need to make homemade stew. So I started making homemade stew in the crock pot, but there's a lot of online recipes for just canning the raw ingredients, and you put it in your pressure canner and it turns it into Denny Moore stew right in the process of canning it. So I look forward to that a lot. This is what I mean by little tomato forest. He's got, 10 plants there that need to be separated. So we're going to get together some yogurt containers. We have bought our yogurt in the past, sour cream, cottage cheese. You save those for the garden and just real easily, quickly put a hole in the bottom. I just stack them up and run a drill or a nail through it. So there's a couple growing here. We'll separate these out. And a nice thing is, like I said about buying starts from somebody else, a lot of people really like to spend a Saturday driving around doing fun things like this, and they want to go to a farm and buy some rabbits or chickens or some started plants. So we always have like rhubarb divides, rhubarb starts for sale. Bethany is getting into selling some perennial starts. So we just started saving all those containers for the last year. Whenever I buy plants at a nursery or garden center, I save the containers. And you can transfer them to a thing like this when they're real small, if it's just bare root plants, and sell people a whole tray of them. And that works really well too, depending on what they're after. What I was saying about, being too old or, your back hurts. I used to go to a nursing home, and it was more of assisted living. They had individual apartments. This Croatian couple had a balcony, no different than the apartment and balcony I lived in. And they provided themselves enough tomatoes to eat fresh tomatoes daily with their lunch, and still put up several jars in canning just to keep a hand in it and have their year supply of tomatoes that they needed for their own diet. Well, lunch has been had, and it's time for me to start doing some work in the shop. I'm working on rebuilding some surge pulsators. If you do dairy milking and things like that on a small scale for your homestead, the surge bucket milkers are so good for that. I ended up with a lot of extra pulsators, and I have them for sale on my Etsy link. So if you follow that up above, you can pick up any surge bucket milker parts that you may be looking for that I have. So then that's going to lead into what we'll work on later on in the day. After I'm done with the pulsator parts, I have to work on gathering some T-posts and fencing materials to plant those trees. It is a beautiful day, and we are just having an easygoing afternoon here, getting everything done. So Murdoch got all set up with pots and some carrying crates, and he's already potted out 17 starter plants. At $4 a piece, that's $51, and that was just from one little cluster that he had over there. So he's easily got another 17 plants in that pile. I bet the guy could end up making $100, $150 if he sold them all. It's just amazing. So you can see why I told him to go ahead and do this. These were just growing from the plants falling over, and he planted too close to this pine tree last year. So I told him, plant some things that maybe don't need full sun in this area. He's still got seeds to plant, and he's like 10 rows over in tomato plants. This is a bit of a walkway, and we've got more tomato plants growing here, so he could plant something small right through here. And Bethany's gonna come out and plant some zinnias. marigolds, and maybe some more sunflowers. The rabbits seem to be getting the sunflowers faster than we can keep them out of here. So it's pig fencing. It is what it is. But if we can get anything to grow, you know, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we're going to try. Little George is raking hay again. He's waving. Little 5-year-old George has not been getting tractor rides because of not having the fenders on. But he's having a great time today. His dad decided he's big enough and he can handle it. We're working on our second cutting hay for this field, and it had just occurred to me, today is Father's Day. The last time we cut this, it was on Mother's Day, so it's been just about a month of growth. Pretty remarkable for less than 1 inch of rain. There's not going to be like the bunches of bales. I think there were 6 last time, 4 acres. Let's see how many we get this time. Well, it is back to haymaking. Today we are doing our own jobs. I'm doing painting. He is working on hay baling. The round baler has already been hard at work, and it looks like I'm seeing 2 bales here. The south field that we were filming yesterday ended up with 3.5 bales. He's already unloaded those and moved them off the field. We are anticipating rain starting Sunday, which is still 6 days out, and it's showing 5 or 6 days of rain. We sure could use it, but we're certainly not counting on it. So you can see these are some real nice second cutting bales here. He's over there baling the first cutting of that section that hadn't gotten done. So to only get 3 out of that field, that's not a lot. Guy's work. He's been busy at it. He said he actually lost one of his center belts on the baler, but he's being able to keep going just by adding a little more string. I hope it's not going to put too much strain on the other belts, but we gotta see about a belt lacer tonight, see if we have one in the shop or if we can get one quick. So here's his belt, and you can see what happened is that these metal lacing pieces just came undone. And I think basically it was hanging on part way, and I was asking him if it could be saved, but I think the only way it could be saved is to shorten it, and maybe you could do that. He was thinking that it actually got stretched a little bit and that was why it happened. Here's the other end. See, it just pulled them right out. So here is the last of the first cutting, and he did that second cutting this morning. It'll be a long time till this field gets a second cutting. So I'm off to the shop to go do my work there. Like I said in the beginning of the video about moving hay and doing all that, putting work on yourself, sometimes I have work that I even forgot I had to do. By the time I'd mentioned that, I forgot all about that job. So when he's done moving hay, he'll probably remember for me, because I'll forget again. It's a good thing about being part of a team. We help each other out. We are each other's backup that we can lean on if we can't get everything done. Yesterday I couldn't even get this door open. So he had to help me do it. So I'm going to be here working on the bench grinder. It's going to be noisy, no fun for you to watch. So go through the playlist, find something to watch, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.